basically an interview with Miss Pamela Trillis. You spell her last name Trillas, so it's not pronounced Triaz, it's Trillis. And would you still consider yourself a client of mine? We worked together for 3 years, but would you still consider yourself a client of mine? I don't know.
No, I mean, it's hard
Did
to
you?
say because I feel like we're in such a weird time that I don't know because I haven't been to the gym since March, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Um,
November. It's November right now. We are, what is it, 9 months deep into this pandemic.
yeah. So if there's a day where I'm allowed, where it's, more acceptable, I guess, to be in an open gym, then I guess I could potentially be. Um, so, but I never left you. It was the pandemic really that stopped everything.
Oh my God, she never left me. Boys and girls, take notes. I know we worked together for 3 years,
Hmm.
and up until March, we were together. We trained an average. We trained at least once a week, and we
Hmm.
talked. We talked either messaging all the time,
Yeah.
and it was amazing to see your evolution. And I want to take this opportunity to not talk about you as Pam, but you as Pam, the teacher slash newly certified precision nutrition coach, and somebody who's
Yeah.
absolutely passionate about fitness and going over how your evolution could help other people who are in similar situations as you, or who are currently in similar situations as you once were. Because over that 3 years, I think we did fantastic work together. You
Yeah.
got brutally strong. You look so fantastic. You look so great, and I'm not exaggerating. But I would it would be a lie for me to say that your biggest achievement were your numbers on your lifts, because they were very
Hmm.
impressive. Deadlifting over 200 pounds, squatting like 185, Romanian deadlifting almost 200 pounds, rowing like 70 pounds, double kettlebells swinging like 100 pounds. Those are really, really impressive numbers, right? For anyone, let alone a female. But what really impressed me, and a lot of my clients who have worked with you also say, is that your mindset shift, the way that you have been able to evolve your mentality towards yourself and living a healthy lifestyle in general. And being a newly certified nutrition coach, you're going to be able to bring a lot of cool things to the table because of the unique politicized environment that health and fitness is undergoing. I mean, it's always been in the works, and I know a lot of health coaches and trainers are really shy and bashful about going into politics or talking about politics. But I think it's almost unavoidable. And health, fitness, and politics are on a crash collision course simply because you're starting to see two different camps start to diverge. You have a camp where it's full acceptance. People believe that you should love you for yourself, and nobody should tell you how you should love yourself, right? It's called the health at every size movement. And
Hmm.
it's comprised of a lot of women. And then you have the health and fitness movement, the health and wellness industry. The one thing that holds these two industries together, and I'm sure you know because you've lived through this, right? Whether you are aware of the industries or not, like internally, this is what you lived through, and this is what you struggled with, and this is what you are continually overcoming over time, is the value of human life. Every human has an inherent value, whether they're rich, whether they're white, they're black, they're yellow, they're tall, they're short, they're large, they're heavy. Every person has inherent value. But that is really the biggest common denominator. Everything else is different. For example, you have the health at every size movement, where they don't believe there's a limit to how heavy you can get. They don't believe in the terms obesity and overweight. They believe those terms are social constructs. But then you have the health and fitness, like the researchers, the medical community, who believes, hey, you actually can be obese. There is a cutoff. You can gain too much weight. There are health implications that are of consequence if you eat the standard American diet, or you don't watch what you eat, or you're not moving around enough, you're sedentary, right? And I think a lot of these two movements are a result of this massive technological and modernization shift that our society has been going through the past 100 years. And you're coming into the fore, being a woman who has had body image issues for most of your adult life, right? And you're genetically predisposed to being a little bit larger and a little bit heavier. With that comes strength. But there is this common misconception that if you lift, you're going to get bulky, you're going to gain too much muscle. But you are a prime example of how, over time, if you consistently try to do the best that you can and make small incremental progress, not only can you get strong, but you can get tight and you can get lean and you can feel great about yourself. And you don't necessarily have to obsess over the number on the scale. You are a prime example. You're the poster child of that type of movement, which is why I think, and I'm talking too much, but I just wanted to kind of introduce this without exaggeration of how valuable I think you would be, and I think the relationship that this has been.
Yeah.
So I just want to kind of lead off, like, who is Pam? Who is Pam? Like, what do we need to know about Pam?
So I'm 31. I'm a teacher. And I don't know, I guess, like, do you want me to go into like my journey, or, you know?
Well, let's talk about, what were your hangups when you were younger? What got you started into this whole journey of health and fitness? Because you were never really into taking care of yourself. And I mean, you showed me pictures of yourself in high school, right? I think one of the pictures you showed me was you holding, like, not when you were in high school, because I don't know who's what. Well, anyways, I just kind of threw you under the bus anyways. But one of the first pictures that you showed me was, like, I think it was like during like a St. Patty's Day party, and you were holding a cup of beer or something like that. And you definitely
I remember that picture.
Yeah, you look nothing like the way you look right now. So what got you into this?
Yeah, so I obviously, like, growing up, I would say probably like any girl, had image issues, not because I was overweight growing up, but simply because of like the things that I saw. And I feel like because a lot of comments stuck with me as I was growing up. Like, if people would look at someone and say, "Oh, she's really tall and thin. She could wear anything she wants," but like not people like us, or like we're big thighed girls, like things like that, where I never looked at myself as being bigger or overweight. But then when people would make these comments to me, it was like, wait, what? I have big thighs, and I do, but not being aware of that when I'm 10, 11, 12 years old. Like, those comments stuck with me. And when I got to college, much probably like everyone else, I put on a pretty decent amount of weight, probably like 30 pounds, I would say. And it's funny because I actually felt like when I was at my heaviest, I was also super confident, maybe because I didn't realize how big I was until I distinctly remember I came home from college and I stepped on the scale and I saw the number and I was like, whoa, I don't weigh that much. But I did.
Why did you feel confident when you were at your heaviest, though?
I think I just was living my life and I didn't care. I was 21 years old. I mean, it's like you're 21 years old, you're in college, you're having a blast, you have friends. No one else is thinking about their weight. Everyone else is drinking till 4 a.m. and eating pizza and macaroni and cheese at 3 a.m. So no one's sitting there and saying to themselves the next day, oh, I gotta go to the gym. It's just kind of like you're hanging with your friends. So that was a rude awakening for me, was coming home, stepping on a scale, seeing the number, and it was like, oh, I got to do something about this.
So how did you associate that number with, oh, I need to change?
I don't think that I had stepped on the scale in quite some time. So I knew what I weighed before I went to college. I knew what I weighed during college. And then I saw what the number was after college, and I was like, oh, there's a 30-pound difference here. That's not normal, and that's probably not okay. And I'm going to assume that everyone else around me sees this.
So what's interesting is I don't really remember talking to you about this history, this part of your history. Now that you're talking to me about it, I want to know, and I don't know if a lot of other people would suffer from this, but I'm curious. There seems to be a disconnect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before you went to college, you were lighter. You
Mm-hmm.
go to college, you're heavier,
Mm-hmm.
but at your heaviest, you're at your most confident. Then you
Yeah.
come home and you look at the number and you see how heavy you are, but you're also at your most confident. And then now you're like, oh, wait, I need to lose weight. So now I think this is where a lot of people, and I think this is the big thing that you overcame. A lot of people, no matter, a lot of people have a misalignment between how they feel about themselves on the inside and how they feel about themselves on the outside. So what, where do you think that difference was when, for example, like you were at your heaviest and your most confident, but then you come home and you just look at this number and now you decided that you needed to change? Like what, how was that number able to overcome your feelings of maximum confidence at that weight?
Well, one of my friends was actually doing Weight Watchers at that time, and she
Mm,
was telling me about how much success she had had on it. And so I think that that probably clicked in my mind, was seeing the number on the scale, um, and then knowing that there were people around me that were doing something about their weight, that
mm.
I felt like, hey, maybe I should do something about my weight too. Um, and honestly, that was probably my aha moment, which kind of led me into a spiral almost, because obviously you know what came next for me.
Mhm.
Um,
Before we go into that next phase of your life, how did you know, what did you think about yourself, or how did you feel, and feel being like within yourself, like your body? How did you feel at that weight? Did you feel your body was, it was a little bit, the extra weight was too burdensome, or did you feel sluggish? Do you feel that it had an effect on your energy and your performance, like, or do you feel like it didn't really make that much of a difference?
I think that it's hard to say, just because I was a college student, and so
Hmm.
my job was going to class. And then besides that, it was just hanging out with friends, going out with friends. So I wasn't working out. I wasn't doing all these strenuous things. It was just like wake up, go to class, come home, hang out with friends, go out, wake up, go to class, come home, hang out with friends, go out. So I wasn't leading this super busy life that I was, getting run down into the ground.
Mm.
Um, I was sleeping till whenever I wanted to sleep to, and I was, doing my work, and I was going out, and I was having fun with friends. And so there was never a point where it was like, oh, I feel so tired. I'm sure that if this was happening to me when I was in my career, it would be a very different story. Or in a place where I was trying to get into fitness. But since I wasn't at that point in my life, and I wasn't very active, there was no reason for me to be sluggish. And, there is something to be said about age. 20, 21, 22 years old, you are very young. So the way that your body bounces back is very different than it does when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, etc.
That's what I say to people too. Is like you can be heavy and large when you're young. That doesn't necessarily mean you're unhealthy, right? But there comes a time of reckoning when, if you let yourself go a little bit too much, the chances of you feeling some of the detrimental consequences of that later on is higher, or they're higher. The chances are higher. It's kind of like, that saying, the 40, the new 20, right? I am a firm believer that how you live in your 20s and 30s is a good representation of how you will feel, how you'll look when you're in your 40s and 60s. That's just my theory. That's what I've seen. And basically talking to you and my other clients, it adds a little bit more evidence to the anecdotal toolbox, right? Now, I quite so if you hadn't stepped on the scale, do you think you would have embarked on your journey of fitness?
Yes, I think I would have. I just don't think that it would have happened at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
I think that probably other external factors, such as maybe a comment that someone said to me, maybe if I had went to the doctors, maybe if I had went clothes shopping, there would have been something that made the light bulb go off in my head that, hey, this isn't normal, that I would have made a change. Not really sure exactly when that would have been, but I don't think that it would have been too much long after that moment that came for me originally.
Did you get any condescending comments about your appearance while you were in college?
Not really, because I feel like a lot of people put on weight when they're in college, and I
Freshman
also feel like
15.
that's kind of, well, yeah, that there you go. It's like it's the freshman 15. A lot of people put on weight. It's kind of like the norm in society that, oh, hey, she gained 15, 20 pounds in college. It's fine. Um, so not a lot of people said much to me, and also I do have the type of body frame where it's not like I just gain weight in one place. Like I don't just gain weight in my legs. I don't just gain weight in my stomach. It's like an overall thing. So like 30 pounds overall, yes, I'm much bigger, but I still had the type of figure that I had, which is a more, hourglassy, curvier figure, which is something that people admire, so people would still look at me and say, oh, you look good. Even though I was heavier, I was never like shamed because of my weight.
That's so interesting. Now I'm curious. Do you think people made comments about your body because they held your admirable figure to higher standards than the average white woman?
That I don't know. I don't know.
Is that a weird
Um,
question for me to ask?
no, 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 not at all. It's just I simply just don't know. Um, and also, you have to remember that like that hourglass frame wasn't really something to be admired until recent years.
Yeah.
So like growing up, you didn't want that, so growing up having that,
Hmm.
uh, I didn't want it, you know. And then it kind of switched, and it was like, oh hey, I have this already, you know. Um, so no, I don't think that people were saying it to be condescending to me.
I think it's interesting because you make a really good point, and when you mentioned it wasn't until more recently where people embrace the idea that people's body frames are different. Back maybe a couple decades ago, when you were a little bit younger and people saw your frame, they expected women to be thin,
Hmm.
not voluptuous.
Hmm.
Voluptuous. Holy crap! Who uses that word? Voluptuous. It's like lips. They probably expected women to be thin, and they didn't realize, oh, maybe this is how Pam was designed. Maybe this is
Yeah.
how this is her natural build. I remember being a dietitian in I was in Harlem. I was there for a Juneteenth celebration, and with my internship, we were responsible for doing BMI, body mass index. I know it's inaccurate, it's not the greatest, and this is just proof that it's not. I remember I was there and I was doing BMI measurements for people because we wanted to kind of give people a little bit of healthy nutrition and advice. We had set up a table, and this woman comes up, this black woman. I don't know if she was Nigerian or Jamaican or she was African American. She comes up and I look at her like, holy crap, she had to have been at least 6 foot tall. And she was big, big. And I'm going to tell you what big meant in just a second. I would be taking her BMI. And mind you, BMI of over 40 is classified as morbidly obese. She had a BMI of 65. Have I ever told you this?
No.
She had a BMI of 65. The craziest thing is this woman, her body figure was just like yours. She was built like a brick house. She was 6 foot tall and 270 pounds. But I swear to God, like I was, and she was not self-conscious about her weight at all. She
Hmm.
embraced her body. And I say,
Hmm.
man, ma'am, like you are built like a brick house. Do you mind if I touch your arm? Because like I'm like, holy crap. I was working out. I was a strength athlete. I
Hmm.
was a competitive powerlifter. I was like, holy crap, do you mind if I touch your arm? She's like, yeah, absolutely. So she just did this with her arm and I touched it. I was like, holy crap, this woman can punch a hole
Oh
through a
my
brick
gosh.
wall.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show you that a lot of people would look at the BMI, or maybe because of some misconceived notions of what weight and BMI actually mean, they would jump to some misinformed judgments and conclusions, especially looking at you, be like, oh, Pam, you need to lose weight. Like you're a little bit too voluptuous. Like, are you sure you don't want to get a little bit thinner? Right. So I think it's interesting how how your mindset towards that shifted, and how like society is viewing women differently nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Did I just completely take you off tangent?
Nope.
What did I ask you? I asked you if you haven't stepped on the scale, if you would. Oh, we were talking about your body frame and how it wasn't until recently that
Yeah.
society started to embrace different body figures, right? So then, what are the next steps on your journey? Like, what happened next?
Yeah. So, my friend was doing Weight Watchers, so I joined Weight Watchers with her. And that was actually the first time that I really had joined a gym that had group classes. So like I started doing spin, I started doing the fitness classes. I lost like a little bit of weight, but obviously it was like trickling off because just what happens to me even at a younger age. So like I would lose some weight, I would kind of stall, lose some weight, kind of stall. But again, I was still really young, so I was still going out and drinking multiple days a week. My cheat days were a couple days a week. It was very it wasn't strict, but I was making progress because I was living a healthier lifestyle. But I would say the biggest things that happened that kind of put me to where I am now is that I got into detoxing and cleansing, which I look back and I don't regret anything, but I really wish that I hadn't done that. I look back on those moments and I get so upset that I treated my body the way that I treated it. Because for years, I thought that that was the only way to lose weight. And I got in this really, really bad habit from when I was 24 to when I started to see you, so 28, that's 4 years, of different cleanses and juices and detoxes. And there were a few different ones that I did that range from doing a 3-day juice cleanse to doing, a 24-day program to straight up not eating for 10 days. And I did these things over and over and over again. And as a result of doing those things over and over and over again, I really messed up my system. I wouldn't eat for all this time, where I would go 100% and go on these detoxes and cleanses. And then when it was over, it was like, all right, what's next? And I would go out with friends and I would have a drink or two and eat like a normal human being. And I would get so bloated that it would be painful. And I had a lot of water retention, which I now know as edema. And couldn't recognize it back then, but now knowing what I know that that's what it was, because I was very swollen around my face. And I know that you saw that when I first came to you. And I couldn't eat a lot of things without having a reaction. So like gluten, dairy, even fruit, even certain vegetables, I had a really bad reaction to them. And I simply thought that it was because I was intolerant to all these things, and I wasn't. And it wasn't until I came to you that, I said all these things to you, and you looked at me and you were like, no, that's not what it is. You have digestive issues. We're going to fix this. That's like in such like a long story short type of thing. There were things in between, such as like my battle with the scale and stepping on the scale and seeing the number and having a breakdown and doing a 10-day cleanse and literally not eating for 10 days and not leaving my house for a month and eating 1,000 calories a day, 900 calories a day, to make myself feel better for a short period of time and drop 10, 12 pounds in, less than 15 days to just, then go out for a night with my friends and enjoy myself. And next thing you know, I'm 25 pounds heavier than I was a month ago. And that's the nutrition aspect of it, and obviously because of all of that, I felt horrible. I was embarrassed because I was so bloated all the time. And I would say it to everyone. I'm so bloated. I feel so bad. And people would get mad at me. Like my friends would get mad at me, and call me crazy and, to tell me to stop. And like, they did not get that. Like I was so bloated that I was in pain, because of what I did to myself. I mean, I did it to myself. And I was very swollen because I had all this water retention, because of what I was doing. I was on this like yo-yo cycle of not eating, and then I would eat, and not eating, and then I would eat. I mean, and again, I told you this went on for about 4 years, 3.5, 4 years, before I finally broke this cycle, because during that time, I literally could not lose weight unless I did those things. And so that's the nutrition aspect of it. I don't know if you want me to get into the fitness aspect of it or not, or hold on that.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into the fitness aspect. I just want to make a couple of comments. I remember when we sat down for the first time, and it was a nice long conversation. Martina, or I just threw her name out there. I'm not gonna say her last name, but Martina, your previous co-teacher, because you're a teacher. We didn't really talk about that. You're a teacher at an elementary school in the Bronx. And we also kind of have an idea of your age. We're not going to tell people your relationship status. But anyways, Martina said, "Hey, I have this girl. She loves working out, and I think she'd be a great fit. And she lives right next door. You live right next door to the gym where I worked out in New York." And I said, "Okay, yeah, bring it." And I remember, we did the workout, we sat down, and we had a nice conversation. And you were telling me about this, like not as in depth as that you are now. I'm actually learning a lot. I know I feel kind of embarrassed to admit that we've been working for 3 years, and there's some things you're talking about right now that I had no idea of. But I guess it's just the nature of the thing. When we never really took a deep dive into your life history, but when we first sat down and started talking, and you were telling me things, like, oh my God, like I don't, what happened? Like back then, I've only been a trainer for about 10 years, right? And I'm learning every single day, every single year, talking to you, talking to other people. But so back then I was still considered like green around, like wet around the ears. I was like, man, like, what happened? Like, what kind of history did this girl go through in order to, like you said, treat your body this way? And when people do their yo-yo diet, their bodies respond differently, but it seemed like your body responded particularly harsh, right? Because there are people who do these yo-yo things for longer than you, and they don't necessarily suffer the same consequences. But your body just did not take well to the disordered eating, not an eating disorder, but the disordered eating that you were putting yourself through, like the up and downs, the abdominal distension of going out to binge eat and drink, and then going on a cleanse, and then shocking the crap out of your metabolism, and then working out. I just had no idea. But I also know, and you know this, we both know now that you're a nutrition coach, that a lot of people, men and women, more women than men, suffer from this stuff, right? And perhaps they don't want to share because it's embarrassing or whatever, or they're afraid of getting shunned, the guilt and the shame that comes with, opening up and being vulnerable. Be like, hey, look, I have a real issue with the way that I view my body, and I need help, right? So I think it's really crazy that there are that you're the norm here, right? Norm in terms of like what you do, not necessarily how your body reacted, right? And that's kind of what I was alluding to in the beginning of this discussion, where there's this culture, this diet culture, and that's something that concept is something I'm on board with, right? There's this diet culture where we in order to curry favor with either jobs or people or on social media, we should look a certain way. We should carry ourselves a certain way, right? And I know, and we'll talk. Well, I mean, you'll be a better descriptor of this, but I know there was a lot of comparative analysis going on with you
Yeah.
and other people, and I don't know if that's what you were going through back then, but I know during our work together, you mentioned
Yeah.
some comparisons. So let's talk about the fitness leg of your
Yeah.
journey.
So, right around the time that I started all of this, right before I started this rabbit hole of detoxing and cleansing, I joined a small group gym, not going to name it. Amazing people that run it. I give so much credit to these people. Shout out to them. And it really did wonders for me for a period of time. And this is not their fault at all, but then I, had slowed my progress because I didn't really know what direction to take with nutrition. Because who does, honestly? I find that people will go into the gym and they have the working out part down packed, but they don't have the nutrition part down packed. So I met someone that was doing this program and I got roped into doing it and I lost all this weight. It was a month long and I lost all this weight and it was the thinnest that I had been since I was like 16 years old, probably, I would say. And I loved it. I loved how I looked. It was great. You know, but it wasn't sustainable because what's sustainable about only being able to eat once a day? It was one of those things where it was like, oh, you have a shake and then you could have half of an apple and half of an almond. Then you could have another shake and then you could have like a half a cup of broccoli and brown rice and like a half a piece of a chicken. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, and then you're going to have these days where you just don't eat at all. But you're going to be fine because you're going to drop weight. And it's so true. It was like I hated it, but then I would step on the scale and it was like, whoa. And I didn't know how to sustain the weight that I lost. And so I really abused the program by constantly cleansing on those cleanse days where like you didn't eat. So what I would do is I got into this really bad cycle of, sticking with the shakes, and just using that like, oh, I have to have this for my lunch and I have to have this for my breakfast. And then every few weeks going on the 2-day cleanse where I just didn't eat. And that worked for a period of time. It did. But, then you come to a point where you want to enjoy your life a little bit. And so that's what I did. And then when I went to try and do the program again, that's when I started to experience all those issues. But I was at this gym the whole time. Again, amazing gym. However, because of the way that I was eating, it affected my performance at the gym because I am very strong and I was doing these serious lifts, the back squat, the bench press, the overhead press, the deadlift. And I wasn't using the most proper form for as heavy I was lifting. And I also wasn't training consistently in a sense that I was doing X amount of strength training days and X amount of cardio days. It was just like whatever I kind of felt like. And then also severely under eating and not fueling myself properly really landed me into the position that I met David in, you. Because when I came to you, I had this imbalance in my, like this.
I remember that.
Shoulder imbalance, yeah.
Yeah.
That was from deadlifting with the over and under. I had that. You could see like how bloated I was. My posture is still not amazing, but my posture is better. terrible posture. And I think that that's probably from rounding my back and doing all those, exercises and stuff. And so I was just beat up. I was so beat up when I went to my back problems, my back issues, when I came to you. Yeah, I was in so much pain. I was in pain. I was embarrassed. I was bloated. I, had terrible posture. I was uneven in like the way that I stood. So it was just a really embarrassing thing for me, especially at 28, to be experiencing, and then to honestly not have anyone around me understand it. That was hard.
Your story illustrates what lengths people are willing to go to if they're really serious about it's. You loved working out. It illustrates the lengths people are willing to go to for a passion of theirs, whether it's a hobby or a career. You really liked working out, so you worked out 5 days a week, and you followed the programs. You lost weight, you gained weight, you got strong. There comes a certain point though where you leave the realm of health and fitness, and you go almost exclusively into performance. So you do compromise on your health, and that's where you went. Your evolution, I think, was coming full circle and understanding I don't really need I don't really need to have an amazing 1 rep max. I need to I can look great. I can be self-confident, and I can eat whatever I want while still having a healthy relationship with both my body and with food. That's the evolution that I think. And I think it was just like coming full circle, and you becoming a little bit, you becoming well-rounded, right? When did your passion for nutrition start? When did you decide that, hey, look, this is something that I'm interested in. Maybe I'll make something of this later on.
So, when I started to go to you, and obviously people started to see the difference in me physically and mentally, a lot of my friends would ask me questions. They would ask me questions about, fitness. They would ask me questions about nutrition. I also came to this point in my life where I was working at a job that I really hated it so much, for several reasons. One of them being was that I worked from 6:30 to 4:30 every single day, very thankless, I would say. And I was miserable, like just so miserable. And I noticed that me being miserable and the stress that I had a severe effect on my body, on my weight. I would say I probably gained like 8 to 10 pounds, and not because it was like actual weight of me just not taking care of myself, but it was like this like stress weight, I would say, almost like bloat. And then the pandemic happened. And when the pandemic happened, I took that as an opportunity to kind of step back and say to myself, okay, so what am I going to do here? Well, one, I'm not going back to that job. And I did not. Two, I have this time, right? And I'm sitting here and I'm saying, I don't know if teaching is my passion. So what is my passion? Well, I don't want to be a personal trainer necessarily, but what do I love talking about? I love talking about food, and I love talking about health and nutrition. Now, where do I go from there? And I remember I called you to tell you that this was the decision that I made, because I had so much time to reflect on the way that my life was going, and saying to myself, these are the things that I don't like about my life. These are the things that I can control, and these are the things that I want to change. And the reason why I worked so much was because I was doing after school with the school that I worked at. And obviously with the pandemic, I wasn't doing that anymore. So I had hours of free time on my hands. So to me, it was like, I'm not going to waste this time and sit around. I'm going to do something with that. So that's when I called you and contacted you to tell you, hey, I decided to do this. And that's when you told me about precision nutrition.
When you told me you were thinking about going into nutrition, I was not surprised at all. And in
Yeah,
fact, I
that's
was actually
exactly what
excited
you
for, I
said.
wasn't surprised at all. I was like, yeah, I think you have a fantastic resume. You are not only a teacher, so you have that didactic component. You know how to talk to people. You have communication, and you work with kids. Like if you could talk to kids, you can talk to adults. Because really, at the end of the day, we're just bigger kids, right? And how many people use their emotions and feelings to eat? You can talk to that. You were in that position before. You ate with your feelings and emotions. You have a rich history and lived experience of various diets, cleanses, detoxes. You
Mm-hmm.
know how to talk to those diets, even if you don't know the scientific background, which many people don't. Even I don't. You know how it should affect somebody's
Mm-hmm.
body. You know how it affected your body. You know how it affected other people's body you speak to. And now you're certified, so you're just linking all the dots, which I was like, okay, Pam's a nutrition coach. She's probably the best person to become a nutrition coach, because not only has she overcome a lot of her own physical and mental barriers, but she has a lot of experience. She
Yeah.
can talk to these issues. She can talk to people. So I think it was a really great fit for you.
Yeah. Thanks.
I think it's a really great fit for you. And then I'm sure being a personal trainer might be somewhere down the line, especially if nutrition becomes
Yeah.
more of a serious endeavor for you. I think nutrition is a really great way to get your feet wet, because
Yes.
you don't have to be so hands-on. You don't have to see somebody's form. You don't have to be with somebody in person all the time, right? And you and I can do something like this on a regular basis where we can shoot the breeze. We can talk about various nutrition topics, and people get an idea of what's going through your head. Like how does
Yeah.
Pam think? What would Pam's approach be? Because I think you would have a very unique approach,
Yeah.
right? Even though you're a newly
I love
certified coach,
that.
right? Even though you're a newly certified coach, you're only new in title, but you
Mm-hmm.
are a veteran in experience.
Yeah.
And I think moving forward, you'll be doing me a great service to learn from you, because I
Yeah.
think I think I could learn a lot. I could still learn a lot from you.
I would love to keep doing this. Like I think that'd be cool, because then it's like you can hit on so many different topics, and like maybe it won't catch on at first, but like who knows, like 6 months down the line, like you never know.
And you've got a personality too. I know that when during our training sessions, we joke around a lot.
Yeah.
And I think you also have the type of personality where you can connect with almost anyone.
Yeah. Our personalities definitely have to like come out more, because we're like super serious right now, but I feel like that's what gets people is like the personalities.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
If people were listening to what we were talking about before we hit record, they'd be like, oh, what the heck? It's like,
I feel like that's what like I feel like that's what gets people is the
yeah,
personalities, not being so serious.
I think so too. I think so too. This is serious, but not so serious, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like you want to be disciplined, but it's a little bit of a give and take. You want to be disciplined, but you also want to give yourself some freedom.
As I eat a Starburst.
What are those Starbursts? Oh, dude, oh my gosh, my mom. I get my sugar tooth from my mom. My mom sent us this huge like 5 pound bag of candy, and my wife's
Mm.
like, I don't want any of the Starbursts or the Skittles. She only wants the Snickers, the Twix, and the M&Ms. And I was like, are you serious? There are starving kids in Africa. I'm gonna eat these Starbursts. No, I didn't say there are starving kids in Africa, but I'm like, man, Starburst. I love Starburst. So I
It was
probably
so
give it
funny that you said that, because yesterday when I was talking to my friend Jenna, and I was telling her, I'm like, listen, I'm like, you didn't train with me when I was with David. I was like, there would be times where like I would whine, like just whine about the way that I looked, and I was like, and he would literally look at me and be like, Pam, like there's people dying in Africa. Like, why are you complaining? She was like dying. She was like,
you know,
and I was like, no, like he really was just so sick of it. Like,
it's I'm sure you were sick of it too. You're just like, God damn it. Like excuse my language. Like, gosh darn it. Why can't I just do this? Right. And I don't know. You know me. I am not one to put you into a little box or say, hey, look, you got first world problems. Why are you complaining
Hmm.
about running water when there are kids in Africa who have huge stomachs because they have like protein malnutrition and they can't get clean water? I'm not one to try to make somebody feel guilty about that. I think that just kind of like, God, gosh, dang it, Pam, you look amazing. You are so strong. You're so consistent. You don't miss workouts. You listen. It's like, I'm like, you're like, you're like a personal trainer's dream come true clients. You are, and it was just so. At least to me, it was frustrating to see you beat yourself up, and it's one of those things where I wanted to say, Pam, put down the bat, pick up the feather, be
Yeah.
a little bit more graceful to yourself.
Yeah.
Don't beat yourself up so much. And it just go. And well, we're going to talk about all this stuff later, but it's like the power of the external influences, right? And that's why I kind of asked you earlier, like if you never stepped on the scale, if you never saw your friends doing diets or doing Weight Watchers, would you have like when would you have gone on this fitness journey, and would you have started this fitness journey for different reasons? Would you have done it because maybe it's something that interested you, you actually like doing it, or would you
Hmm.
have done it because you really felt disgusted by the number on the scale, right? And I
Hmm.
think that really gets to the heart of why I think you and I are going to try to encourage people to live different lifestyles. I wouldn't necessarily say healthier or more fit lifestyles, but different lifestyles,
Yeah.
maybe a lifestyle that is more aligned with what they want, right? Because I think there are a lot of people who are suffering inside in their values and their beliefs. Who they want to be isn't aligning with their behaviors because of maybe some external pressures or societal pressure from either their family, their friends, what they see on social media. And your goal and our goal is to try to help people align themselves a little bit better.
Hmm.